2 anos depois, o sucesso The White Lotus volta à HBO com mais de seus ricaços sem noção e mistérios homicidas neste domingo, 16 de fevereiro, em um cenário totalmente diferente. Sai Itália e entra Tailândia, e personagens novos e velhos têm que lidar com suas crises materiais em solo budista. 2 deles são os jovens Piper e Lachlan Ratcliffe, que procuram respostas para o crescimento apesar dos pais distantes e do irmão mais velho, Panaka. Em entrevista à Veja, os atores Sarah Catherine Hook e Sam Nivola falaram sobre essa família desequilibrada e os bastidores da produção. Confira.
And throughout all of the episodes, the three brothers have really racked my nerves because it's so hard to pinpoint what exactly they feel or want from each other. So I'm curious, you're thinking about their life prior to this moment. How do you think the way they were raised made them that way?
I mean, have you seen their parents?
Yeah.
I think that should say it all right there.
You're right.
They're a little kooky.
Yeah.
So naturally their kids are gonna turn out a
little messed up.
Screws loose.
Yeah.
Loose screws. Yeah, I mean, I think it's growing up with any type of like extreme privilege is probably gonna do a number on some young minds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that hopefully that commentary shows through as to why they are the way they are.
I agree.
Yeah, my next question was about that. I love Parker Posey, and she's outrageous in this and in everything she does. So her Southern accent is bound to be a highlight in this season. So what was it like to work with her, and is it hard not to break when she speaks like that?
Yes, that's the hardest thing. I mean, everyone on set would try to do the voice all the time.
All the time. Because she also had the best lines.
Yeah.
And we were like, good
it
stuff.
Was so funny. And when she's ordering Thai food on the phone and she kept just reading, she was just reading off the menu, but just in the most embarrassing way.
Yeah.
Just like, I'll have the pad, prick.
God.
You know what I mean? Like,
and then she's like, Gimlim, blah, blah. Like,
yeah. She's
so funny.
She was hilarious.
Yeah, no, that scene in particular, like, because I'm in that scene with her and I'm supposed to be like chill and just reading my book, but like there were parts where I was like shaking laughing. I was like, they're not gonna get like a clean shot of me with all of this happening. Like, how are they gonna do this? Like, they should just take me out of the scene. But yeah, no, it was really funny.
Well, great. And the second season made the show even a bigger hit than it already was, but the idea of a satire of the rich is not new at all. So what do you think about Mike's perspective really makes this show so special?
Great question.
That's a good question.
I think that, you're totally right. That's like, we've talked about that in the past. Like, it's very much a thing of this time, making fun of rich people. It's really because it's funny, and it's also, I think, cathartic for the world who aren't in the top 1% of the 1% to see how ridiculously these people live their lives.
Right.
But I think this show is just using that as a lens on which to do what every good sort of work of art does, and just like comment on what it is to be a human being, and
totally.
The difficulties of anyone's life, regardless of how much privilege they may have, and that these people, even though they are ridiculous and sort of evil sometimes, have their own problems that are very real and can often actually be quite relatable to the average person.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
Yeah, I think, Sarah, your character really speaks to that with her spiritual journey that she goes on. So why do you think this contrast between these Western values and the Eastern spirituality this season is so interesting?
That's a good question. I think just putting Westerners in an environment like that there is like such a stark contrast because their ways of life are so different, and I do think that's what appeals to Piper so much, because she's doing everything she can to not turn into her parents, her family. Like, I think that is a huge reason why she took interest in this in this specific path. But yeah, I think maybe that's exactly what Mike was thinking. It's just like, taking all of these like really crazy rich white people and putting
Yeah.
in like a calming like minimalist environment and
Yeah.
seeing how they do
Yeah, exactly.
and how they could blow it all up.
And it's so hard to pinpoint with the characters in The White Lotus if they have an earnest interest in the culture or if it's just a way for them to project what they want from the world. So how genuine do you think your characters are when portraying them? How is it to define that?
I mean, for Piper, I think she is very genuine about what she wants, but I think more so than anything, it's like a way for her to run away from the shame she feels having grown up in the world that she was brought up in. I think that it is like a complete escape for her, and I don't think she can do anything lightly. So she's like, go big or go home. And she's also like a college student, like, you know, doing the whole liberal arts thing. And I think she's been learning a lot that's like changed her worldview, that then being plopped in with her family in this country, she's just like really seeing like their ideals she's just not aligned with, and that's why. And I think she even says, if it's still in the episode, of like her mom is like, you could have a completely different set of values, and she's like, yeah, that's kind of the point. Like I don't want to share the same values that you have, and that's kind of her MO like the entire time, I think.
And Sam, for your character, I think his vulnerability lies a lot in the very peculiar relationship he has with his brother. So what I find interesting, besides all the things that people will see, is how he kind of signs up for this idea of the powerful alpha male finance guy that his brother pushes, which ends up appealing to a lot of insecure men right now, young men like him.
Right.
So why do you think that is? Why do you think they find that interesting?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I mean, man, I think there's probably better people than me to answer that question who are like psychologists. But I don't know. I mean, I think it's it's a way to feel powerful if you don't feel powerful innately. And I think like if you're a really insecure person and like someone is like, hey, just so you know, men used to rule the world or whatever, which is bullshit because they still do. But like you deserve to be on top and be powerful and be an alpha and all this bullshit. It is, I can totally see why that's appealing to someone who has no self-confidence. But I think that with Lachlan, it's actually sort of the message isn't necessarily what's appealing to him about his brother. I think he's just as interested, I think, in Piper's Buddhist messaging, and I think really it's just whichever one of his siblings is going to make him feel loved and supported is the one whose philosophy he's going to pick. I think it's less about the philosophy and more about just wanting to feel accepted and loved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And well, my next question, Mike is such a good writer, I think, because he writes for the strengths of actors. So for both of you, what was it like to work with him and collaborate?
So dope.
Fun. Yeah. It was also like really different from what I think I was expecting. Like even with my director's session, like my callback with him, I was really nervous because I was like, okay, we're going to have all of these like philosophical conversations. Like I got to be on it. And as soon as I jumped on the call, he's just like, hey, how's it going? Like, what's up? Like, I felt like we were getting lunch. Like,
yeah.
I love that he is so not like he cares so much about like the material and the world and your soul and your heart, but then he makes light of everything like in a really, really nice way that makes you feel like you're not pressured to like
totally,
I don't know, like live up to anything. Like he never ever put pressure on any of us. Like I was astounded by that because I was like, isn't this the biggest show in the world? Like why are we not like freaking out? But he was so like calm, cool, and collected, and just was like making sure that we had a really good time. And I really admire that about him because I've been on many a show and film sets where it's just high stress all the time, and he does not prescribe to that at all.
And I think it's also like, I feel like it's a thing on movie sets where directors think like, if you're enjoying this too much, it means you're not working hard
Yes, like,
enough.
yeah, absolutely.
And I think Mike
The opposite
understands
of
that that people do their best work when they're
When they're
relaxed
able to
and
be
when they're having
relaxed.
fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're having a shitty time, it shows in your performance and you just are miserable and then your character is miserable and then the whole thing is just miserable.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, totally. Agreed.